I poured my heart and soul into that company. For 5 years, it was my life. I wasn't just an employee, I was the architect of its comeback story. I remember the early days, the frantic calls, the sleepless nights staring at spreadsheets that were bleeding red ink. Bankruptcy wasn't just a possibility, it was a looming certainty. Our boss, Richard, was a charismatic leader but not the best with numbers. He'd rally the troops with inspiring speeches, but inspiration doesn't pay the bills. While everyone else was polishing their resumes, I saw a glimmer of hope. A tiny, overlooked revenue stream that, with the right strategy, could become our lifeline. I spent weeks locked away, building a proposal. I mapped out a new business model, identified untapped markets, and created a financial projection that was ambitious but, I believed, achievable. When I presented it to Richard, he was skeptical. His face was a mask of worry, etched with deep lines of stress. He listened, nodded, and finally said, "All right, Sarah. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot we've got. Let's do it." And we did. The next year was a brutal grind. I worked 80-hour weeks, personally leading the new initiative. I negotiated with suppliers, retrained sales teams, and basically lived at the office. My social life disappeared, my hobbies gathered dust. My only focus was pulling us back from the brink. And it worked, slowly, painstakingly. The numbers started to turn, red turned to black. The whispers of bankruptcy faded, replaced by the buzz of a company on the rise. Within 2 years, we weren't just solvent, we were profitable, more so than ever before. We were the industry's miracle story. At the company-wide meeting celebrating our success, Richard stood on stage and gave a moving speech. He talked about vision, perseverance, and teamwork. He thanked everyone for their hard work. He looked right at me and smiled, a smile that I thought was filled with gratitude. He said, "And I want to give a special shout out to Sarah, whose brilliant strategy was the cornerstone of this turnaround." The applause was deafening. I felt a surge of pride. All the sacrifice, all the sleepless nights, it had all been worth it. I had saved us. Life at the office settled into a new, prosperous rhythm. That's when Liam, the intern, showed up. He was Richard's nephew, fresh out of college with a business degree and a very confident swagger. Richard introduced him as his favorite intern and a future leader. Liam was assigned to my team. To be fair, he was smart and eager, but he was also green. Incredibly green. He had textbook knowledge but zero real-world experience. He'd suggest ideas that sounded great in a classroom but were completely impractical for our business. I tried to mentor him, to guide him. I patiently explained why a certain approach wouldn't work, citing data and my own hard-won experience. He'd listen, nod, but I always got the feeling he wasn't really hearing me. He spent a lot of time in Richard's office, closed-door meetings they called strategy sessions. I didn't think much of it at first. I was busy, focused on scaling the very systems I had built. I figured Richard was just grooming his nephew, teaching him the ropes. Then, subtle things started to change. Decisions that were once mine to make were suddenly being run by Liam first. Clients I had personally managed for years were being handed over to him. When I questioned Richard about it, he'd wave it off, saying, "Just giving the kid some experience, Sarah. You know how it is. It's good for him to learn from the best." It felt less like learning and more like a slow, deliberate handover. An unease began to creep into my gut, a cold feeling that I tried to ignore. The final blow came on a Tuesday afternoon. Richard called me into his office. The same office where I had once pitched the plan that saved his company. Liam was there, sitting in the chair next to Richard's desk, looking smug. Richard couldn't even meet my eyes. He stared at a spot on the wall behind me as he spoke. "Sarah," he began, his voice oddly formal. "As you know, the company is moving in a new, dynamic direction. We need fresh leadership and new perspective to take us to the next level." I felt my blood run cold. I knew what was coming. He continued, "Effective immediately, we're restructuring the department. Liam will be taking over as the new head of strategy and growth." I just stared at him, speechless. Head of strategy, that was my role. The role I had created and defined. The role I had used to drag this company from the depths of failure. I looked at Liam, who had the audacity to give me a small, condescending smile. "What about me?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. Richard cleared his throat. "We've created a new position for you," he said, pushing a piece of paper across the desk. "Senior Strategic Advisor." It was a title with no team, no direct reports, and no real power. It was a glorified consulting role, a way to keep me on the sidelines while they took credit for my work. He was replacing me. After everything I had done, after I had literally saved his company from ruin, he was casting me aside for his unqualified nephew. The betrayal was so profound it felt like a physical punch. I looked at Richard, the man whose dream I had saved, and I saw a stranger. I saw a man who valued bloodlines over loyalty, nepotism over merit. The gratitude I thought I saw in his eyes that day was just an illusion. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just done. I picked up the piece of paper, looked at the meaningless title, and then looked back at Richard. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, turned around, and walked out of his office. I walked back to my desk, the desk where I'd spent countless nights building his empire back up. I didn't pack my things. I just grabbed my jacket and my bag and walked out of the building, leaving behind the company I had resurrected. As I stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, the anger finally hit me. But underneath it, there was a strange sense of liberation. He hadn't just replaced me, he had released me. He thought he was putting me on the shelf, but he was actually setting me free. That day, I learned a very hard lesson: loyalty is a two-way street. And some people will drive their half of the road right over you to get where they want to go. My story with that company was over, but my own story was just beginning. I took my strategy, my experience, and my resilience, and I started my own consulting firm. My first clients were competitors of my old company, businesses that were thrilled to have the architect of their rival's success on their side. And you know what? Building my own dream is so much more rewarding than saving someone else's. They might have taken my job, but they couldn't take my talent. And in the end, that's the only thing that truly matters. Thanks for listening.